Okay, so this is an interesting show for me today. It's the first time I've had someone I actually know on the show, and this person was a flat earther and an XRP holder way before me or way before I started this show. So I will let you introduce yourself and maybe let you tell your story a little bit about how you became a flat earther. Then eventually we're going to get into what you describe as biblical astrology or flat earth astrology, I guess. Because right now, I would say the world loves astrology and horoscopes. But to me, that shit's always been a bit dumb. Like, if everyone born within 5 days of me, we're all going to have the same experience today because Mercury is moving to the left. So I've never bought into that. But please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, yes, it's good to be on here, John. This is awesome. Always excited. Always been wanting to come on your show and talk to you. We used to have some good conversations when we used to hang out together all the time, and you would laugh at some of them, and I would laugh at some of yours, and I think we both kind of come around both full circles here.
Maybe you've gone more conspiracy and I've gone more flat earth.
Yeah,
maybe now.
yeah.
I don't know.
When we were younger, we have a lot of mutual friends, and I think they all thought we were both crazy and coming from both sides. And
Maybe
some still think I'm crazy, and some have joined up a little bit and realized that over the years we're not so crazy as we look. So
we're same.
It's been a fun journey, to say the least. I enjoy it. It's something that gives me hope and pleasure to look into aspects that the common man doesn't care about or know. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot out there. If you're interested in this, you can find out a lot. And not everything might not be true, but being diligent and studying and check facts, check resources, going through all this stuff is important. It really is. It's not like we come into this willy-nilly, just being like, oh yeah, we'll believe whatever comes along our path. No, this is something that it takes some work at it, and it's not for everybody, for sure. But it's something but it is necessary so that the people that do have the gifting or the calling to help others out, even though they don't know it.
And you used to always tell me all the time you're a flat earther, and I'd be like, kind of laugh at you and be like, okay, whatever, like that's fine. I didn't make fun of you, but I was always like, okay, I can't go there. I would say that to your face. I'm like, man, I just can't go there.
Yeah.
But you always had the patience to be like, okay, whatever. But it's kind of weird now looking back on that. But
in my mind, when we would study the Nephilim, we would study all kinds of things.
That's what I was into.
How can you not get into this stuff? This is just as much interesting.
Exactly. I was just obsessed with one thing. I'm like, I don't know. Then then you get to the lies of NASA. Then you can't ignore NASA lies. You can't ignore the videos. And I've been stuck on that all year. I'm like, this is ridiculous. But
yes.
When did you become a flat earther? Like what? Like so, everyone's been indoctrinated from a kid to see the ball.
Yes, and everybody knows. Like even as a kid, like you've seen the pictures. Yeah. You see, you get the ball. It's put into every classroom. It's put into every cartoon that we watch as kids on Saturday mornings. It's put in everywhere. But you always saw this flat Earth model that they would show the Globers. They would show this flat Earth with the water hanging over and Christopher Columbus going over the edge. And we all knew that there was this thing that was like a mockery of some sort. And so like you kind of always just like, yeah, it's funny, watching Bugs Bunny and, he chucking the ball, it goes flying around the hole, or see, has all the stamps on the baseball, right? You kind of like, you as a kid, you look at that, there's a round Earth, It wasn't until, for me, I started getting into a lot more conspiracy stuff. So I have my own contracting company, owner and operator, and so I would study a lot of business books and trying to learn business, how to make better money, how to be more successful. As I was younger, I got a lot into the prosperity gospel, Christian prosperity gospel, listening to all kinds of big names, Jesse Duplantis, Joel Osteen, all these famous people that would push this idea. So my passion was trying to learn business, how to make better money, how to
Yeah.
do it. So I listened to a lot of audiobooks, and one day I came across this guy. Is a Jewish rabbi, and he wrote 2 books called the 10 Commandments of Business or something like that, or the um, the it was 2 books anyways. And there was a lot of, he started bringing up Hebrew words in there, and I've
Hmm.
never heard these terms. And then the
Like
idea of
old
what,
school principles like that people would have known. Yeah,
yes. And
yeah, yeah.
so it got me interested in, like, well, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, and I'd never heard this stuff, so I'm going to start looking into these words and different things. And so I started looking up different channels, and what I first started coming into is understanding how the whole Bible works as a whole. Um, I get labeled all kinds of different things: Hebrew roots, messianic. I don't subscribe to any of those, but I get how people can, they need to understand kind of where you're coming from, I guess. But what I started realizing is that um, the whole Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, are harmonized. They are not 2 different ideas. They're not 2 different gods. They're not 2 different anything. So
Yeah, you have to
when
understand
I
one,
started,
get to understand the other better. Like you get a better
yeah,
meaning.
and
Yeah.
and I've always taught, start at Matthew, start at John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, and all that stuff. And that's where you start. And then to me, as I started listening to these people that saying, like, the Old Testament's still for us today, and so I started studying the Old Testament. I started studying how this all, how the commandments are still for me today, that we're still that this aspect of new covenant, old covenant, there's, and the words. So I got really fascinated in words. And so this journey of learning that the whole Bible is for me today, and that there are rules and regulations that give us blessings, and if you don't do them, curses. So as I was going down this journey, this is when flat Earth started coming into all this, because I'm starting to look up different words. I'm looking up
Okay.
aspects of Hebrew terms, and right off the bat, in Genesis, it talks about, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and He called the heavens. He gave it a name, the Shemaim in Hebrew. He gave the Shemaim a name, and he called, or the heavens, or sorry, the Rakia. Sorry, Shemaim is heaven, but Rakia is the glass solid structured dome
Mm-hmm.
that is over top of everything. And he called that Shemaim, the heavens. Now, that got me intrigued, right? Okay, what's this glass dome? What does it look like? So that started bringing me down this whole aspect of biblical cosmology. If you're not into the Bible, flat Earth and all that,
Mm-hmm.
to me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like a biblical cosmologist. This is exactly what God built, and this is this makes things so much more real to me. Um, when I have a cruiser motorcycle. I love to go on big trips. I take one of my kids usually once a year, and it was just after I started studying this whole aspect of God creating a solid structure dome, which is 7 layers. If you, I don't know if you ever read Enoch or not, or I'm sure you
I
have got
have.
into a
I
little bit
have.
of that,
I have. I've read through
but
it.
it talks
I don't remember that
about
part, but
the 7 layers. And anyways, I'm riding down on a big road trip, and all of a sudden it just dawned on me. I looked up, and he's looking right at me. The God of that created all this literally can look down and see me, and it's not some distant million billion miles away that you can't, we're just a speck that doesn't mean anything. No, I am created for a purpose. I'm created in this system that he's made that is amazing. I'm driving through the mountains of British Columbia, and I don't know if anybody's ever been up here, but it's beautiful. It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Lots of listeners
And
from
so
BC.
for me, this whole aspect of what God created actually means something. It's actually physical, tangible. It's right here. And so for me, it was a huge change in my life of how to look and how to study even more into this topic.
Hmm.
So you start going down all the paths of, there's a lot of, there used to be a lot. When I started this, it was about 2018 when I started, and it was right at the end when the internet started taking off a lot of stuff. I was able to find a lot of stuff, but
Hmm.
it was like only a couple months later that all of a sudden things that I was watching, I couldn't send anymore, I couldn't find them, couldn't show anybody. It just started disappearing. Channels I was watching totally gone. And it's just like, okay, there's even more. Like, this is important. Like, not this is not just me just wanting to learn stuff. This is like, they don't want you to learn this stuff. They don't want
Hmm.
it in out there and to understand how things work, because everything goes off of this. And it's a huge
Yeah,
portion of the scriptures, because there's a lot of prophecy on how at the end of the age that um, this new city, this they call it in the Bible Jerusalem, the New Jerusalem. It
comes
gets
down.
open
Yeah,
up. It
you get a
comes
new earth and a
the
new
firmament
heaven.
opens up like a scroll,
Yeah,
and it comes down, and everybody can see it from all four corners of the earth.
which makes more
And
sense of a flat Earth model versus a ball,
yes,
because that's always been an argument. If you ever grew up around like a religious community, people would always be like, "Well, how does that happen if on a ball that everyone sees everything or sees this
yeah,
happening on
yeah,
Earth?" It's like, well, it makes way more sense when you're looking at it that way. And the other thing, like you were talking about how you just kind of look up and you start to view everything differently. And one thing I think is
mm-hmm,
crazy is the light rays from the sun. How obvious that is when you start to consider the flat Earth model is real. And if the sun really is as big as it is, and it's 93 million miles away,
mm-hmm,
and this is massive light source, the angle of the light rays should be coming straight down.
mm-hmm.
But when I
Yes,
wake up in the morning, they come straight at me, and then as the day goes on, the light rays clearly change. They're changing the angle. So I've been watching that a lot the last few months, and I'm just like, no, man, this is ridiculous. It can't
yeah,
be as big as it is they say it is. It can't be as far as away as they say it is. And then I've been seeing pictures of people, and this is where the weird stuff comes in, is because as a conspiracy theorist, the conspiracy theorists show this stuff, but it's almost like proving what you were just talking about, some of the stuff in the Bible, which is also crazy because there's so many Christians. It's a flat Earth book, and I was one of them for a long
mm-hmm,
time. It talks about everything being flat. And this year, all year long, I'm going off on crazy. This is what the show's about, I guess, Unbridled Minds. And then I would kept thinking about, you talked about God is above us looking down. I think it's Isaiah 61 or something talks. It's like a
yes,
footstool,
yes,
and that was in
yep,
my head all year. It's like a footstool. It's like a footstool. And I'm like, okay, this is
hmm,
so weird. Like, we're in this massive biodome, but then it makes more sense of how crazy things used to happen on Earth too.
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean? Like
yes.
miracles, the
Well,
flood,
like
everything kind of comes
Joshua,
together. It's like, oh, and if you're looking at the flat Earth, well, maybe I should let you explain what that is. Like, what do you? Because I'm kind of coming to this conclusion. It's like a clock, and the
yes,
sun is
there is a
almost
clock.
like, yeah, like we're on a weird clock, and that's why some things like are ordained. Or I've talked about the show on the show Hale Bopp Comet, and this was something that influenced my decision bigly, because it was all about gene therapy and DNA manipulation back in the time of Noah.
Mm-hmm,
And I talked to you about this
mm-hmm,
before I was even looking at it. I remember showing you this stuff in face to face and being like, this is all about gene therapy and like DNA manipulation, what they were doing at the time of Noah. And we're seeing Hale Bopp Comet again, because I got questions now about meteors. What are they? But I wasn't wrong. It's more planned. It makes more sense that God planned us to see that and warn us of something coming.
yes,
It makes more sense. And then just a
yes,
random orbital
yes,
pole. So
yes.
I don't think I was wrong about different things. I'm looking at them from a different perspective, like what you were talking about.
Well,
I'm going, oh, this makes
yeah,
more sense. This makes way
yeah,
more
yeah,
sense, man. Like,
yes,
oh, it's
yes.
crazy. And it's crazy. So please go ahead, describe what you think biblical astrology is or flat earth astrology is for someone that I'm still learning, or anyone that's new to it, not even new to it.
Yeah. So, for me, if the Bible didn't say so, I would have a harder time. I come from a faith background, but
Doesn't
you
mean you don't
venture out,
worship Baal.
and even without the even without uh being Christian, there's so much evidence out there. I love watching a lot. I want to get one myself. I don't have one yet, but I want to get a Nikon P1000. I don't
I
know
have
if
that
you've
in my
seen any
notes
of
here to
those.
bring
Yeah,
that up. Yeah.
yeah. So that's something I do want to get, but I've watched time and time again. So where we live, in British Columbia here in Canada, um, we have this. We live right on the edge of the Rockies, where our town is, and
Yep.
when you drive west, you can drive west or even east. You head towards Alberta, and you get to the flat plains. You can see the mountains so far away
Far
on a
away.
clear
Yeah.
day, especially in the winter. Winter at when it's like -40 is one of the best times because there's no atmosphere to block your visions and to distort or to make it hazy. You can see a long ways. We actually have this joke here in the prairies in Saskatchewan and stuff that you can see your dog run away for 2 days, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of funny because you're like, oh yeah, it's flat. Yeah, it is flat. We had some people actually Okanagan Lake here in British Columbia. It's a massive lake, and there's some people there that had
Ogopogo.
yeah, bought a P9 1000 and a Nikon P, and they actually could go all the way. They went almost, I think it was 27 miles on the lake there. So yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of people that are waking up to this stuff, and
Yeah, and I've seen videos. Even the island I'm on, like obviously Israel's in the news like crazy right now,
yeah,
and someone from basically that region took a video with one of these cameras
that's a
or
good
a
one. I've seen that. Yeah.
high res something or a camera, and they could see the island I'm on, like the highest mountain, and you're like, no, that shouldn't. Where's the curvature?
Yeah,
Like, where is it?
a lot of people use
Like,
those infrared cameras.
okay,
The infrared cameras they take out the atmosphere, so you can see really really
even
far.
further. Okay,
So yeah, and just there's so much blatant once you see it, all of a sudden you just see stuff everywhere, like constantly, especially in Christianity or Protestant or Catholic. You just start seeing stuff like I mentioned earlier, someone like what's his name, big famous guy down in Texas, preacher,
not
Joel Osteen.
Olstein. Yeah, I always pick
You
on
look
him
at
on
his
this show.
church.
He's got the
You
big
look at
globe
his
in the
church.
middle.
He has the globe with the tilt of 66.6.
Yeah,
His
yeah, and he
whole
hides all the
his
money in
whole
his walls.
guess what his place is in a dome. His whole church is in a dome.
Okay. Yeah,
It's like it's so much obvious stuff that starts pointing or starts just like jumping out at you, and you start realizing who is on one side and who's on the other. When you've
yeah.
been taught your whole life these are good, awesome, amazing,
Or you
godly
think
people,
that, and
and you're like,
you're like, oh, they're Christian, they have to be good, but
yeah, yeah.
they're not.
No. There's a
Yeah, I
Paul
agree
makes
now.
this very clear, that and a lot of the apostles, like there's sheep in wolf clothing right from the beginning. There always has
Yeah.
been. There's always the truth is always going to look, or the non-truth is always going to look like truth. It's I always tell my kids, looking for truth is easy, but looking out for the half truths, that's a harder thing to do. You always have to research, you always have to look into, okay, oh yeah, this is true, but then it's like, no, well actually no, there's some half truths to this. Okay,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
part is this is discerning. And for me, one of the coolest things, I got to actually talk to this guy down in the States. He has a YouTube channel and a website. It's Project 3.14, and
Yeah.
he has amazing channel on talking about the tabernacle of God when it was created at Moses. And
Okay.
he goes through the scriptures and proves he's the engineer. And he was living in Israel, was doing some studying, and he started reading through the portion of where God tells him how to build the tabernacle.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all been taught this square box kind of shoebox style where they planted all these things on top of it, and then there was this fence all around it. And he started going through it and realized the shape of this tabernacle was a 6-story dome as he puts all the pieces together. And it makes a perfect circle with a dome. That's why he calls his channel 3.14 or whatever, right? It's the pi, a circle.
So pi is
And
more
he shows
the okay. So okay, cool. This is the
the
weird thing.
circle of the earth.
That kind of makes sense, but I don't know why this is coming to my head right now. They always teach you like conspiracy stuff with the pyramids that some of the building math, the math of the building is linked to the speed of light. Okay, but if space isn't what space is, and the speed of light isn't what the speed of light is, and does this make, I don't know, and like if the stars are all sort of the same distance, this whole sort of speed of light is different, then why were the Egyptians using these numbers? Like it wasn't pi, but it was something I can't remember what it was, but they use it all in this. But then how does that switch to? Because the way people teach it, it's like on this whole space model, and then but the pyramids obviously knew something too. I don't know. Maybe I'm going off on some
Yeah,
weird.
no, the pyramids definitely have. You can go down this path too of learning of all these old ancient buildings that have these massive steeples and they collect energy, and the pyramids were part of that. Like they found there was a pyramid found up in Alaska there not too long ago. Like pyramids are all over the world. They were doing these
Mm-hmm.
things to make energy from the ether or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
to create certain or this ether aspect
So
of
maybe it has
everything,
to do
right?
more with
So
ley lines and transmitting versus the
yeah,
star. Because I mean,
yeah.
and that's another thing. The pyramids have always been lined up with the stars. So how does that work on a space model where we're twisting and turning, but every single night the stars are like aligned right above the pyramids and like
Always,
Egypt, like always, like, and we always fall for it. Like,
always.
how did
Yeah.
we? How do people like? How, I don't know. It's This is the kind of stuff like when I see people argue for the ball Earth, I'm like, I get where you're coming from because I used to be there. Like, I get your
Mm-hmm.
argument, but you're not even. I know what's going on, and you're not even examining what we're saying because once you start to do what a flat earther does, I don't know. There's no coming back. But
Yeah, it's knee jerk reaction. Our brain always have blinders on it. Like we have, it's like you've heard of the croc brain and the all these different types of like we have these things set up in our brain that if something is different, we instantly put up a wall to try to protect ourselves, right?
mm-hmm.
Even though it's not protecting, we're afraid to go deeper because it means that we have then two options. If we start researching this stuff, we have two options: either we're going to believe it or we're not. If we do
Dismiss it.
believe it, that means we have to change.
The
It
way you
means we're
think.
going to have to start doing something different. You're going to be thinking different. You're going to be acting different. Even when you approach people and talk to people, you're going to instantly always be thinking about the stuff you know. And so, like, you can't serve two masters. You can't serve things that are lying or the truth. You have to choose one or the other. So, like, it's easier for us to just shut it out instantly. Ignorance is blessed. We like to be ignorant because it makes us have to not to do to be lazy,
Yeah.
to not
I
then
mean,
be whenever I talk to people that aren't about it is that don't understand it. I was talking to, actually you would know this guy, but anyways, I saw him in the coffee shop there a couple years ago, and I sat down, and he's all into the Bigfoot stuff and all that, and so we were talking a bit, and we were having a good conversation, and I brought up something about biblical cosmology, flat Earth, and he just instantly looked at me and like, nope, nope,
can't go
we're
there.
not talking about this. I'm not. There's no way that's real. No, and he pretty much got up and just walked away, and I'm like, oh my goodness, man, like
But you can talk about Bigfoot.
but we can talk about Bigfoot, which I have a lot of experience with that stuff too. I love that stuff. It's real to me. I've
Making the
definitely
news
had my own
again. They're taking a
experiences.
shit. Did you see the
Yeah,
one taking the shit the other
yeah,
day? Yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah.
The truce.
No, there's a lot.
Oh,
There's a lot
and
of
that was
stuff
the
out
other
there.
thing. That was the other thing that just happened in the news with the Ring of Fire like a day or two ago. Did you see the video where the light literally went through the moon? It was
No, I
on
didn't see that
major.
one.
Okay, so it's on major news stuff. It's on Twitter and everything, or X. And in the middle of the
Hmm.
moon, the
X
light
Twitter, I love that.
comes right through. And it's like, okay, well then what is going on? Like, how is light going through a solid rock ball?
Mm-hmm.
That's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
does that mean the moon is transparent? Or was that a plasma explosion on the moon? What would you say as a
Yeah.
long-time flat
I
earther?
I say it's a luminary. It just it has a cycle, so that is the moon itself is a clock, right? It's the
Yeah,
month.
but what is
In
it?
fact,
Is
in
it
Hebrew
plasma? It
lore,
can't be I don't think it's a rock anymore, man.
no, I don't think it's rock. I have no. I honestly could not tell you what it is. How are we
I think it's
supposed to know? Like
plasma. I
we
just
can
think
only
it's plasma.
speculate,
I know this is my
and it could be
speculation
plasma.
from what I've seen people say. I've done some research on it. I feel like it's plasma. It has its own light source. It's definitely
Yeah,
not a
yeah,
reflection.
yeah.
That's
To
just
me, the
observed.
moon,
This is just observed something I'm observing, and like I don't know.
what the physical nature of the moon, I'm not sure. What it's for, I do know. It's for
Okay.
time, seasons, and appointments.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In Hebrew, it's called Moedim. We call it in English feast days, or actually Moedim. There's lots of
Like right now, we're
root
in a
words
bunch of
off it.
feast days in the G.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
finished. We did just finished Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot in Hebrew. They call it Feast of Booths. That's a lot of what we would say when Jesus was born, or Yeshua in Hebrew. He was born on the Feast of Tabernacles. He came to tabernacle amongst us, right?
When would
It
that
fits the
be if he was
timeline.
born? I'm going to talk about gematria soon, and one of my gematria things, when I type in my name, it talks about the birth of God. So I'm interested because I have a theory. But when is that? When is that festival?
Which one? Sorry, the Feast
The
of
one you just
Gods
said where
or
Jesus was
God?
born.
Oh, okay, the Feast of Sukkot is a 7 day thing. You would find it in Exodus and Deuteronomy and stuff. It talks about the feast days. There's 7 feast days of God. There's Passover, which is unleavened bread, is a whole another 7 day feast. So in the 7 day feast, you got Passover when Christ was crucified.
Yeah.
You have not Easter, Easter, another.
No,
Anyways,
no,
you
but
and
that
then
would
you
be
have
the month of Nisan then. Is that the first? So it was
uh
Jesus born at the same
yes, it's the
time of
first month.
Nisan, the first month.
No,
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah. So in the Bible, that's the first month is when Passover is 14 days after the New Year. Um, Jews today celebrate the New Year in the fall here.
Yeah, like September time,
That's when
our
they
like white people time,
yes
September. Yeah.
yes, but that's not the biblical thing. So it's kind of funny that they do that, but it's not the biblical
Oh, okay. I didn't
start of
know
the
that.
new year.
Yeah,
So you
Nisan is
have
April is the beginning of the new year, right? Technically.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
April-ish.
It
Like
depends on
yeah,
what
okay.
calendar.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
there's
But like I'm
multiple
going like
calendars too, right?
on the normal the calendar most of us use. It would be like around April time. It's actually
Yes.
Nisan,
Yes.
and I've heard
Yes.
theories where that's where Jesus was born in the first month because that's also the same time when sheeps are born, and the sheep and then and it's like a sacrifice, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they're only born in Nisan or something.
Well, they were. Yeah. They're. Yeah. So that has a
Anyway, it's
lot to
just a
do. I've
theory. It's
actually
just
heard
a
a lot of
theory.
people. I've heard lots of people talk that Jesus was born during the time of Passover, but I see. Me personally, where I'm at right now, I see more evidence of him being born in the fall feast. So the first feast,
Like I think the same
there's
thing.
four first feasts. Yeah, the first four feasts are so you got Passover, then you have the week of unleavened bread, and then you have first fruits, which is the wave chief offering of the first harvest of the barley, which is very representative of all of the crucifixion and how death, burial, resurrection of Jesus is all during that time. And then you have or Shavuot, which is Shavuot is 7 weeks. It's the counting of, we call it Passover, which comes from Greek, which is 50 days. It's 50 days later,
Hmm.
or 7 weeks. It's another kind of first fruits thing. Um, Passover is another one, and then you have the whole summer goes on, and then you have the fall feast, which is you have the Feast of Trumpets, Atonement, and then you have and then the Feast of Trumpets, and then the Feast of Sukkot, of Booths, of Tabernacles.
You clearly
So
know your
these are all,
Jewish festivals. No, I
well, they're
don't know
not
them
Jewish,
nearly
they're
as well as
gods.
you. No, I know. But what you know what?
Yeah.
But I mean, like they get it. They get kind of
So
attached to the Jewish culture. But what makes these
yes,
things?
they
I
do.
know, and I know why you understand. I know why you study them probably because when I study them a little bit, they link to the end times, and
They do, and they link to
that's
the
why
whole
I think.
cosmology.
Yeah, and I think that's why you have to understand them a little bit. And I think you're definitely better at these festivals than me. But another thing people have been talking about is the September 23rd sign that keeps coming up. Came up in 2017, and then everyone was talking about this year. And then people are starting
Yeah.
to, I don't know why I keep seeing these conversations about when was the Messiah born or when was Jesus born. And I kind of think when you have Christmas and Hanukkah, they're both represented with a lot of lights. Okay. And
Yes, the Festival of Lights is
at
what's
the
called
time,
Hanukkah, but that's not a feast day, though. By the way.
I know, but just hear me out because a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's a pagan time at Christian Christmas." Okay, I get that argument, but what if you were to overtake those things, overcome those things, and at the moment of inception, there's a burst of light. So Jesus could
Hmm.
have been miraculously in, I don't know, inception at around that time, and then if you go a full term pregnancy, that can bring you into some of these fall festivals.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
that's possible. Yeah,
And the
definitely.
Koreans start life at the time of conception, like when that first flash happens, not at
Yes,
birth.
and
So
I do believe that's a very Hebrew way of looking at it too, right? So like,
Koreans are Hebrew.
yeah, life is at conception, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. um, the other thing, like why I study the modems and the point of times is because they're called dress rehearsals. All these
Okay.
things are, you
Like
do these
COVID.
things because you're preparing. Yeah, you do these things because everything lines up, and um for these feast days, they line up with. So I follow a different calendar than everybody. So I follow the Zadok
Is that
calendar,
like lunar?
Enoch
Like
calendar
13
also.
months?
No, it's a solar
Okay.
sun, and
So you're a
what it
sun worshiper.
is this was,
Just kidding. Just,
yeah.
no, no.
Yeah, the moon plays a big part in it. It's both of them, right? This is how it works. But what I really like about this, and it took me a long time to study. I studied calendars for about 3 years, and I wouldn't say I'm like 100% correct. It just makes
Okay.
the most sense to me. So the Zadok calendar is a 364 day year calendar,
Okay.
and that
I'm
every
going to do
month
some
is
math here.
perfectly, or
28 days.
every season. So it works out to every 3 months, and then sorry, 2 months are exactly 30 days, and the last month is 31 days on every single one. And
Okay.
days do not change. The day of the week does not change the date of the month either. So my birthday is always going to fall on a Tuesday, no matter what.
Okay.
Always on the same
Have you heard
time.
of this? Have
My
you heard of the lunar calendar where
Yes,
you
yes,
have
13
13
months.
months, 28 days, and
Yes.
then one day is reserved for the resurrection?
Yeah, that's what the Jews follow, that calendar. It's
Oh.
actually more
The
of a
Jews are the
Babylonian
Khazarians.
calendar. Oh, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I'm not against. I'm fully for. I believe in the 12 tribes. I believe
Yeah,
that,
yeah, no, I believe there are
what
Jewish people. I just think there's Khazarian mafias
yeah,
parading to be Jews right now.
no, for sure. And even the Bible talks about the Jews that call themselves Jews and they're not, right?
Yeah,
It
they're the
talks about
synagogue
that.
of Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's what these guys are.
you do have to be careful. It's funny because because I keep the commandments of God. I keep the what people call the Mosaic laws. But Moses never made up anything. They're God's laws. But I keep them, I've been told lots of times that I'm a Judaizer. And then on the other hand, because I don't do what the Jews do, I'm called a anti-Semite, right? Like it's funny because on both sides, I don't fit into any category because I'm stuck right in the middle. on this straight and narrow path kind of deal, I would like
If
to
you don't pick
say.
a side in
I
these days and
followed.
times, you're something wrong with you.
No, and I'm sure you've heard this. Like, you grew up in Christianity. I'm sure most people that have grown up into any kind of religion would have heard the song. This old kid song is called the Bible. That's the book for me. I stand alone on the Word of God. For me, I believe on the great day judgment, when God judges everybody, you're not going to be able to I'm not going to look at you, John, and be like, hey, John, or John told me to live this way, or this pastor told me to live this way, or this guru told me to live this way. He's gonna, well, no, what did you do? He's not going to look at, you can't blame anybody else around you. You're literally going to be you. So for me, I have to study. I'm going to be standing alone on whatever I study, and I don't expect anybody to follow me. Test everything I say. I love this saying that I adopted. It's like, listen to all, follow none. I'll listen to everybody's. It might be the most craziest, wackiest thing you've ever heard. I will listen to you, and I'm going to then take it, test it, see if I
Think
agree
about
with it or
it.
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have no guru. I don't have anybody that's telling me we're not in a cult. We're just trying to do this path of studying to the best of our ability. And this day and age is great. I'm what you call dyslexic. I have a hard time reading. My mom sacrificed her life to teach all her kids how to read because most of us were dyslexic, and she did a good job. And I'm not the best reader, but nowadays you don't have to go to the library to sit
Yeah,
down
you can
and read
listen.
a million. You literally can go on this and you can find so much information and good stuff too. You just have to test it. You just have to make sure that it's right. And there is a lot of crap out there for sure. There's a lot of things you're just like, oh my goodness, how does that person even? But I still listen because you never know. You never know. How many times when you come to somebody and they just say the wackiest thing, like me coming to you with flat Earth, and then how many years later you're like, yeah, maybe that's.
No, I mean,
And
it's
I did the
true.
same thing.
It's true because I was doing the same thing. Like where you talked about how God's above you. So could the source of the stars be coming from heaven or the throne room? And I was thinking about that in a weird way. Like, okay, like does this, because God is light, and this is some of like these bright lights are up in the sky. Could there be something like more light behind, and we're just getting a tiny glimpse of the light behind the blackness?
Yeah.
And then there was this video, and again, it could be 100%, it could be fake. I don't know. It was just very interesting timing because someone was like, it was supposed using his P9100 Nikon filming a star, and it literally looked like this hand went behind it, this big hand. And I was like, whoa, like if that was real, like that is pretty crazy. Like, why would there be, like, imagine a being so big that it covered the behind, like if you're watching it on your YouTube channel, like it covered the whole thing and it went like this and it looked exactly like a hand. Again, could be completely fake. It's so easy to do that nowadays times.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I mean, it was just in an interesting way of imagining the universe. And then it's like, okay. And then you were talking about the firmament. What is the firmament? Because I've seen stuff like the sky stone, or I've heard theories that down in Antarctica that there's this ice and that you can take the ice off, but if you
Yeah.
don't store it the right
Dissolves really
way,
quick.
it melts really, really fast. And then it actually
Yeah.
replaces itself. So is that why like Elon is launching missiles up into the firmament, and that's why it looks like spirals and it's hitting like ice, and then it looks like it's almost melting it
Yeah.
or something? Like
Operation
what is it? What do you
Fishbowl.
think? Yeah, well, Operation Fishbowl. Then, but
Yeah.
like,
Well,
as a new flat earther, then I'm like, well, then some people say nukes are fake. Then how did they send the nukes up to Fishbowl? But anyway, there's so
yeah.
many
Actually,
questions.
I've gone down that route of nukes too. It's interesting too. It's I don't know what to think about that one because I started going down. Oh, nukes are fake. I'm like,
They might not be. I
yeah,
don't know yet, but I don't know.
they might and they might not be. I don't know yet. Obviously, there's some stuff we can't test. There's just like me as an individual, I can't test that. I don't know. How are we going to? How are we going to know? I don't know.
Never know. Yeah.
But you have, Antarctica is really interesting. There's actually a lot, this is something my wife even was like, okay, out of all the things, this was intrigues her the most on this. I don't know if she really falls where she believes exactly, but she entertains this one for me anyways. There's a lot she doesn't entertain, but she's quite smart and she's studied a lot of good stuff. But that was one of the things that really intrigued her. You got Admiral Berg, and you have, Operation Fishbowl, Operation High Jump. You
Interesting
got,
story. Yeah.
Operation Deep Freeze. You got all these. It's just the list goes on for a long time, and there's a lot of interesting stuff. I would do a little plug if anybody wants to learn more about this. I would. There's a great resource called. It's the name is the YouTube channel name is, hold on a second here, I'll bring it, just look at it quickly. Uncommon Ground with Sean and Wes Blaze. They have I think they're on season 3 now, and they cover all this stuff. And I think anybody, there is so much good information. These guys have done their research when it comes to like their newest one is really good. On eclipses and how it is, and like the play symbol for Google Play list, that's actually the design of the eclipse.
The Aleph?
They actually,
Is that what you're talking about? Like, and over, like, there's 3 eclipses going across America over the last few years, and the first 2, everyone thought it was an X, but if you add in the third one, it's actually an Aleph, like the A in Hebrew. Or it means ox or something.
And it's sideways.
It means ox or something?
Well, olive means ox in Hebrew.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, it's olive and tav, like, the beginning and the end.
Exactly.
Alpha and omega.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting. Even the word, like, we get our alphabet, like, in Hebrew, you got alpha and bet is the second one. Alphabet. Yeah. That's the aleph and bet. Right. Okay. we use that in English, alphabet. We have so much connection to different things like of that nature. But yeah, they have a really good. Some of their last episodes were on the eclipses, which is really interesting. They have, I think you would love it because they talk about the mothership where Satan is
a spaceship,
like yes, just like the Death Star.
Okay,
and that's what
like the moon
what goes in front of the eclipses.
So they think it's
that's
the
what
moon.
Causes the eclipse. No, it's not the moon. It's a ship that goes in front of the moon that cause. Yes, right next to it all the time, next to the sun.
Crazy! I've never heard of this.
This is why you have sun worship. You're looking always to the sun because the mothership's right next to the sun, and they cause, and then it goes in front of these because it's really good. Because how does a moon cover only a little portion of the Earth and not the whole thing if it goes in front of it?
Well, I saw a guy today on Twitter. He put a filter in front of the sun, and his argument was, like a lot of the flat Earth models, they put the sun and the moon as the same size. But when he put this filter in front of the sun, he said, actually, it's very small and probably a lot closer. He argued it might not even be a mile wide. He just said it's super, super bright.
The sun.
Yeah, it's
or the
not
moon.
that.
Okay,
the sun is like not that big. And if he says he showed it on the video, like you put a filter in front of it, and like when you move the filter, it's like, okay, it shrunk considerably. Like the source of light went from like this to way bigger, like when you put the filter in front of it. So it's just a new idea. Yeah. I was like, well, that's a new idea. Like, what if the sun really is super bright but super small? I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Well, you know what's interesting? We've been told our whole life not to look at the sun because it's going to wreck our eyes.
Guess what I've been doing lately?
Looking at the sun.
Sun gazing. Do it right at the beginning of the morning or at the end of the night. Yeah. When it's not super bright.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And I've done that myself. It's actually, I have more enjoyment looking up at it. When I was younger, I used to have actually had a fear of looking at the stars, and it actually gave me a lot of anxiety in the moon and stuff.
Yeah, so people get scared of space.
Actually never looking. Yeah,
and then you're like, oh, space is space. Why would you be scared of it?
As soon as I learned about flat Earth, that fear totally went away. It was amazing. It's my own little personal testimony. It means nothing to anybody. I get that, but for me,
I can see that
when I was a kid.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I was never scared of space. But I'm like, when you're still,
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a big thing for me. It's just, there's a lot of things that when you find truth, and there's the verse in the Bible that talks about that the truth will set you free. My testimony, can 100% confirm that.
From that, yeah.
The more I started, because since I was
Like
14, I've had
people should be
crazy
more
amounts of
scared of falling
anxiety.
off a ball than a flat Earth. When you
Yeah,
think about
yeah,
it, like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
spinning super fast. Like why isn't the water
yeah.
flying off? And they say it's the atmosphere. And it's like, man,
Is
like when you think about it, like okay, like even my head when I go up and down on a plane or I drive up a big hill, what happens?
yeah,
You can feel the pressure in your head. But I have a container,
yeah,
I have a skull.
yeah.
Why does that not apply to the earth? And then all of a sudden you have this magical atmosphere where nothing, just
Mm-hmm.
like the clouds and everything don't just spin
Mm-hmm.
off.
Yep.
That
Yep.
doesn't really make sense. And planes, like they don't dip their nose down. Why don't they just fly
No.
off into space? Or the
My
higher they
brother is a
go,
helicopter.
the higher they go, the further they travel. It doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
on a
My
ball.
brother's a helicopter pilot, and he can share a lot of stuff, especially when you're hovering. You don't ever have to adjust for any movement. You're always staying there. Right?
Yeah, and then if you
And I
research
know the
more,
Globers, they say, well, it's like you're in a vehicle and the fly can still fly around, and like, yeah, okay. Like
that doesn't make sense to me
there's
still. But
no, and there's a lot of things where it's just why our actual senses don't sense us ever moving or like we can physically see and feel things, but yet when it comes to what they taught us to believe, our senses don't see that.
we
We
don't
don't
trust
feel it.
them.
No one thinks it, because we just live our day-to-day
We're too
lives,
busy paying
not
taxes.
realize.
We're too busy paying our mortgage.
Yeah.
And then I want to come
Yeah.
home, and you know what? I just want to unplug for a little bit, guys. I just want to watch some TV and go to bed
Yeah.
and do it all over again.
Yeah, and that was one. That's one of their biggest weapons is that television, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Television.
they have
When you
patents.
break it down.
It's proven to
Yeah,
brainwash you. It's like
yeah.
gets you in a state. Like the
Exactly. And when they use words like NASA is a Hebrew word.
oh,
NASA.
do that. Yeah, what is that? No, it's a Hebrew word. Okay, I've heard this
It
before.
means to lift up.
To lift up.
It
Okay.
means to lift up. And then you look at the NASA sign, and they got the serpent tongue, and you got all this stuff. Like it's and like, why is everything based off of the solar? Why do we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all these pagan goddess that we all use? We have Mercury, you have Venus, you have all these things. They're all sun god deities, and all these different things. Why do we use everything to represent what this ball
Model
system,
is. Yeah.
this model system that we have? You won't have, one of the things that was just blowing my mind away when I was first learning about this, like, how could you ever see the two planets that's between us and the sun during the night?
Yeah. No.
You
I think
never,
you brought that up to me
it
one
makes no
time.
sense.
But the way I've been looking at it, okay, is because a lot of people have been showing the planets, but most of the planets look like stars other than Saturn through through the camera.
Yeah, through the camera.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what the heck is Saturn then? Why can you see, is it, and honestly, like when you look at pictures of it and you start thinking of this canvas above you, kind of looks like a painting.
It is a
Saturn
painting.
looks like a painting. And then all the other planets look like stars. They're just moving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there's definitely some.
So they're not the same. Like the planets aren't the same.
No,
Because you can
No.
clearly see with the camera, if you get a really good shot, you can see the rings and you can see Saturn. But then when you do the same
Mm-hmm.
thing with the same camera onto the other planets, they look like a source of light with water in front of them, like all the other stars do.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
weird.
It is, and I have no explanation for that. I don't know if anybody has much for theories on that stuff or not.
I don't know,
sure,
man.
but
Like I keep looking at Saturn and I'm like, this is really weird. Like,
when
why is that
when it
different?
comes to the cosmos, there's definitely a lot of things that we don't really have a whole lot of answers for. There's definitely is one of the great mysteries for a lot of things. Like to me, the Bible does talk about that they're in covenant. The sun, the moon, and the stars are all in covenant. They were made on the fourth day. It's interesting when you fight Christians that believe the ball Earth, and you say, well, you believe in the creation, right? The creation model, the 6 days, 7-day rest.
Yeah, they all
Like,
do.
oh yeah. I was like, well,
Totally.
the sun and the moon were made on the fourth day. How's that work? Oh well, Joshua stopped the sun. He didn't stop the earth.
No, but you could, you can stop
like
a clock.
Yes. There's a lot of stuff that makes a lot more sense, and the Bible becomes a lot more real when you understand this stuff, right? So
Yeah, it kind of does, man. It makes the idea of miracles more real too. It makes,
yeah.
but it also makes the idea of angels weird too, because they would have come from this, especially the Watchers. They literally came from the dimension. They came from a dimension where you could look down basically on Earth as this small sort of ant colony, and they chose to come down here and screw it all up.
Well, that's where they were sent down here, but when you understand the seven layers and how they all work, like
okay, go into that 7 layers because I don't really know much about that.
Well, so even in so you have the top layer, the 7th layer, the Most High, right? That's where his throne is. Okay. Then you have the next layers. I'm not sure too much what's in the other 2 layers. We have in Paul when he talks about a guy he knew. This is in I forget which epistle this was in right now for some reason. Anyways, he talks about that he knew a guy that went to the 3rd heaven, right? The 3rd heaven it talks about that's where the New Jerusalem is being built, and that's where it's going to come down through. The next layer is where the sun and moon are, and then the stars. So there's something to how the sun and moon are in the 2nd layer that when they're
we're the
when
first
they come
layer,
to the ferment,
we're like the first dimension or first heaven. Then the 2nd layer, is the sun and the moon.
We're on the earth.
Yeah, and then right above us is the sun and the moon.
And then no, it's the next layer above that.
Number 2 would be the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
Okay, and then number 3 is like what some people would say. I would sometimes say is
where
heaven.
The New Jerusalem is.
Okay, but then there's 4 other layers above it.
So the word Shamayim is a plural word. It's heavens. It's always heavens. Okay.
But it's then why couldn't heaven. If there's a city, if there's something that's supposed to be in the 3rd layer, I can see the stars. So it's behind the stars or it's in front of the stars?
No, it's the stars are in the 1st layer. So we're in like inner, and then you got the 2nd layer, or the 1st layer, 2nd layer, 3rd layer, 4th layer, 5th layer, 7th layer. I'm not sure what's on all 7 layers, but what I can see what the Bible talks about. I do
we're clearly not seeing all these layers from our point of view.
No, we're not seeing all of them.
But where is the water? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Where does
that's in between the 1st layer and the 2nd layer.
Okay, and that's why stars would look like there's water. I believe
the stars are in the water. Yes,
they're in the water.
Stars are in the 1st layer in the water.
What do they call it? Like translucent lights, and you can actually do experiments where people they make their own mini stars in water. They put these ingredients in it, and it forms a star. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And guess what? That is actual science where you can replicate something and change something. And I've seen the same thing with the sun and the moon. Is okay if it's electromagnetic Earth.
Yeah,
that's why there's no. Well, that's a whole nother conversation. But no gravity, and if everything is electromagnetic, then these sort of big balls technically they can float because they're on the they're being held up by the right frequency.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
And that's what it comes down to is all frequency. It's not light; it's frequency.
Yeah, it's frequencies and buoyancy And then even I used to study the giants all the time, and that was one of the theories is they used frequency to be able to move the big rocks, so they could defy gravity.
Frequency.
Change them into cliff.
To me, the word spirit. We in Christianity you have this, Holy Spirit or Holy Ghost or whatever.
Yeah.
In Hebrew, the word spirit is ruach, right?
That's what I'm drinking, Ricky, right now.
The word ruach. the word ruach literally means breath. So
Yeah,
when
or
God
voice. Yeah,
breathed into Adam, he ruach, he gave his
yeah, I've heard that
breath,
before. Yeah,
his his breath. But ruach is vibration, right? It's every time you breathe or every time you make a sound, it gives a vibration. Lights
yeah,
give sound, right? They have a frequency, and everything that moves. Have you ever seen when they do when they put different frequencies to a table of salt or something? There's a speaker underneath and the
yeah.
salt
And it's
moves
like
around.
how you'd use
You know,
words. If you speak, curse yourself, you can
yeah,
bless yourself. It changes the molecular structure and the music.
yeah.
This
But
different
those
music. Yeah, yeah,
the shapes they make are
yeah.
like Hebrew letters.
Oh, okay. That's like water going back to like it has a memory,
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
basic. Its basic form.
yeah.
So everything. So you're saying things at its basic form or their basic vibration, they want to go to what God spoke. Is what you're implying.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Um,
interesting.
I'm not sure if you can cut or not. Can I take a 2 minute intermission
Absolutely. We'll just
and
yeah,
come right
yeah.
back?
Yeah, I can
Okay,
edit it.
because
So
I
it's easy. It's super easy. Don't worry. I'll go take a break too.
perfect. 'Cause I got to use the washroom.
Go for it, man.
I'll be right back. Must be warm there.
Yeah, man. It's still 28 degrees every day. Like in the
Holy
daytime.
smokes!
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
already starting to freeze here.
yeah. No, I haven't had snow since 21, I guess, or yeah, 2020, 21 winter. It's
Oh
different, but
wow.
it's like I don't know. It's like third summer for me. It's like it feels like Canadian summer. I'll edit this part out, but we'll get back into it. But even when like the way the sun would work on a flat Earth, it's like when it's summer here, I can feel like the sun is not as hot to me. It's hotter here because it's just hotter outside.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, the sun
Mm-hmm.
isn't as hot to me.
Hot
And
spots.
then,
It's
yeah,
not
but
hot
then
spots. Yeah.
when it starts to come back down on the flat Earth model, like
Mm-hmm.
September, October, like right now, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this feels like the sun I'm used to in the summer in Canada. It's like the same distance now. I don't know how to
Because
explain it. Like I can
there's
feel it.
7 gates.
Okay, but I can feel it.
There's 7 gates for the sun, right?
I don't know this
And
stuff.
and,
No.
and oh, okay.
Okay, well maybe I won't
talk.
edit this out. I'll edit out the pee break for like 2 seconds. But yeah, like I don't know this, but but sometimes on the flat Earth model, it's like the sun would go like yes, it's more around the equator,
Mm-hmm.
but okay, like in Canada, you're more north, so the sun
Mm-hmm.
is like closer to you in the summer, but then it starts to come back down, and then where I am right now, September, October, I feel like it's Canadian summer right now, and I feel like the sun is the
Yeah.
same. I don't know, the
Oh
same
yes. Yeah.
strength.
Yeah.
I always break
Yeah.
fun of myself that I'm Indian, and I'm like, I can feel it, man. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
feel as it's hotter here in the summer. I sweat much because it's humid and it's just hot.
Mm-hmm.
But the sun, I'm like, the sun doesn't tan me the same way in July, August here. I get darker. I think in September, October,
Yeah.
because that's my native sun. I'm used to that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's interesting because when you go down lower down to like Australia and
Yeah.
South America there and stuff, they took videos to clock the speed of the sun. The sun's quicker when it's down there than up here because it slows down because it doesn't have as big as a circuit to do.
Sorry.
So when you're
Is
down
it
there,
wouldn't have a bigger circuit that way.
yeah, it doesn't have it because as it comes up north, it's slower, and as it goes out, it goes faster because it has a bigger circuit, but it always keeps the same
Ah.
time, right?
Oh.
So they actually took videos and clips, and they clocked it and found that the sun moves faster down in the southern hemisphere than it does in the northern hemisphere.
Really?
Yeah,
I've never heard that. That's really
and because
interesting.
there's 7 different gates, right?
No,
Through
I guess.
each
Okay.
so you have each gate in the lower you have one in the lower hemisphere, one in the as it moves up, and then you have the gate that goes, and you can actually, when people take actual videos of it or like pictures throughout the whole year, you can see that it kind of just more like a jerk. When you're watching a video cam or a videotape and you see um the old school reels are going through with the film,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like when you move it slow, you just see pictures, but as you're as you move faster, it looks like it's moving. So it's kind of the same kind of concept, right? Like,
But it makes the infinity symbol.
the
Is that what you're
the
saying,
sun
Glenn?
moves. Yeah, well, the sun moves to the different gates, but it moves at a pace that you think is just seamless. It's like a video, how it
Yeah,
seems seamless
it
that you're
doesn't
watching
seem
this
like it's
video.
okay.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
an interesting
So, but when
theory.
you break
Hmm.
it down and slow it down, you can actually see you can see how it has 7 gates.
Okay.
So yeah,
New
that's
concept
a
to me.
fun one to get into as well. Yeah, no, a lot of cool concepts, and
What are
some people will be like, oh, that's crazy.
how do you
No,
explain
whatever,
meteors?
man.
Like
Meteors. I don't know. It's
I've
interesting.
seen many shooting stars. I've bought them and they're clearly very heavy, dense pieces of rock. If they're not coming from
Hmm.
outer space, then what are they? Like I've seen one theory on the
Well,
internet like okay, like but this is really crazy to me that this is the lengths the cabal or whatever you want to call them would go to is that they're firing or dropping out of planes metal
hmm.
balls that are lit on fire and I'm like what, that's what I'm seeing come down. I don't know, that seems a
um,
little weird to me but and a little dumb
you know,
and a lot of
you know
work.
how like amazing the sky is, and up in Canada here, because we have
Yeah,
very little light pollution, and it just seems like
you get the northern
but
lights
we'll sit
and
back. Even this is where my wife and I have fun, and my brother and stuff, when we go camping. We love to go. That's a pastime of Canadians is going out in the woods to camp, right? And by a lake or something. When we have a campfire, we sit up and we look at the stars. And we have noticed so many of these different stars with it start going and all of a sudden then just change direction, right? And we're all like, whoa, we're like, did you see that? It's going in a different direction now. We're like, yeah, that's insane, right? What they are and what's going on up there, I honestly don't know. I do believe the luminaries, the stars, definitely have a covenant, and they're all individual kind of things. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they're supposed to do the path, and some have not done what they were supposed to do.
no, but I'm talking
So,
like
and
what
then you
they would
have
say like is a rock coming down through the atmosphere and
no,
burning up. Like what is that
yeah.
then? Like
Well,
something is
I'm
looks like it's on fire in the sky when you see those. And I've seen some really glorious ones. Like
oh,
I do the
so
same thing as you no matter where I am in the world. I look up and I love looking at the stars. And if you do it,
yeah.
you're gonna see a shooting star. And if you're lucky enough, I swear I've seen some right above me and they're the best ones I've ever seen in my life. I got so lucky, and I'm like, wow! And it was just like it looked like it was on fire, like right above me, and it was really cool.
Yeah. So years ago, I used to do a delivery system about 4 hours north or west of us, and I would drive every night, middle of the night. I've had the star that went across. It was massive. It seemed like huge, and literally went from like plain dark to like
Yeah, for like
daytime
just a couple
as it shot
seconds. Yeah,
across. And then 2 years ago, we were my neighbor and I were out, and it's wintertime, but we're out barbecuing in the snow on our
yeah,
decks, and all of a sudden this green massive light went right by us, and it
yeah.
wasn't that high. I'd say you think maybe tops a mile.
You
It
say
was
winter.
seemed
That's
pretty
that's
close.
the time I see
and
the best ones. Winter.
and my neighbor like looks over at me to like, what did we just see? And I'm like, and he kind of jokingly says, "Oh, well, maybe it was an alien." And I was like, "Oh, this could be. You never know." But he was just like, "What the heck did we just see?" Literally a week later, my kids and I, we were watching the show. We have a big window in our living room, and we have this door that opens up to our deck. And all of a sudden, all my kids saw at the same time. It was a slow moving orb that couldn't have been more than 20 feet. And we all like jumped up, looked out the window. My wife saw it, my kids saw it, and this thing just moved slowly, and then all of a sudden just took off.
Hmm.
And there's something interesting about Sasquatch and stuff. A lot of stories about whenever they had a Bigfoot or Sasquatch
And they
around,
see an
there's
orb.
usually an orb happen
Yeah,
afterward.
I heard that.
My had a very interesting thing just happen down in Abbotsford, where my father-in-law lives, and um, he lives in a trailer court area, and there was one night a orb came into the trailer court, rested over top of this trailer that was like
Hmm.
just down the road from them, and the day before, there was a dispute in there, and this guy got really upset about one of the neighbors' little dog barking. This old guy, he's an old guy. He was like in his late 80s. The orb rested over his house. The next morning, he got up, walked down to his neighbor's house that had this dog barking with a gun, and told this people to get out of their house, and that he's going to hunt them down. And the neighbor opened the door. This old guy shot them, and then ran through the house and shot him. And it's some crazy things are happening, man.
This
And
just happened.
this just happened a month ago.
Okay.
And
That's crazy.
there was this big orb that was resting over top of his thing. Like, what's going on? What are these orbs? Are they related to some sort of stars? Are they related to, like, what are these things, right? We know in Ezekiel that it talks about these round ball with another thing round in it that are floating or flying around and stuff.
And you've seen lots of it. Even the news, I've seen, like, they sometimes on news segments, they even show it in the hospital. They show a light. So that's not an uncommon thing for people to experience.
Yeah. So, I don't know if it's related to some of the luminaries or how it all works. I don't know how it works. I just know what I'm seeing, observing, hearing.
Remember the Truman Show? Do you ever watch that movie?
Yes, that's
and
awesome
the light
show.
and the light fell down, and the light fell down, and it was like part of the dome at the top. Yeah. Okay. Do you remember, like, I always remember, like, I don't know why I remember this, but as a kid in fake news, every once in a while there's this news story, and it's a repeating news story that seems to happen all the time, is they talk about ice coming from planes, and this big ice ball falls, and people are down like, oh, I hit my house, man. And they're like, oh yeah, it came from a plane. It was ice buildup from a plane. And it's always like, what? Like, have you ever been on, like, I've been on lots of planes. I've never seen ice like really stick on that. Like, and even in Canada, like, before you take off, you got to sit there for a freaking half an hour while they spray the damn thing, and then you take off. And I'm like, there's no ice. I don't even see ice. Like, when do these big ice balls fall down? So maybe is that something? Maybe would the firmament sometimes drop ice? I don't know. Like, or could the ice be burning up as it falls too in the night? And that's what we're seeing. I don't know. But whatever they're selling us, if they're not coming from space, the meteorite rocks, like, they're super heavy, they're super cool. I've held them. Yeah. That's what they tell me they are. But I don't know.
Interesting thought too. Like, Sodom and Gomorrah, right? There was hail came down as fire, which is sulfur. They actually there's
evidence
actually
of that
found where Sodom and Gomorrah are, and they actually grabbed these balls of sulfur. That's the most purest sulfur they ever, and the hottest thing that will ever burn. Like, it's just interesting. What did that come from?
Yeah, I guess so.
Was that somewhere up in the firmament too, or like?
Yeah, true. Yeah, how does this stuff work? Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah. The Nazi symbol. I've seen this linked to flat Earth in a few different ways. One, the constellations that are linked around Polaris, and then also, like, is it part of? Would the Nazi symbol almost be part of the clock, like the base, the structure?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have seen all that. I just don't know much about that, really. I'm
just curious because we've been taught for so long the Nazi symbol is bad, but if it's sort of if it's linked to flat Earth and some way, like, then maybe we've been programmed to, like, no, don't look at the Nazi symbol, it's bad.
No, there's truth. See, that's the thing. We're just looked at wrong or bad. It doesn't mean. Why should we even look at if it's wrong or bad? What does it? Just what is it for? Why did they use these things? Why do the enemy or whatever make it look like the enemy use these things that are very, that have to do with the luminaries? Everything seems to be like, we were talking earlier about XRP, right? And that the millionaires go off of.
They follow the stars sometimes, but I don't know how they do it yet.
The millionaires. They follow the luminaries.
Yeah. So that's what they say. Yeah.
I did an investment, and into an app, and we got an offer before we launched, and the offer was very interesting to me. And the offer, the guy who I knew, who owned the company who was doing the app, um, he told me, well, yeah, it was 37 million was the offer. I was like, oh, okay, that's awesome, that's great. And then the next, or a couple of days later, we were talking about more, and he's like, well, it actually wasn't 37 million. And I said, oh, what was the number? He was like, it was actually 306 three three 36,400,000. I'm like, no way, no way. That is the calendar I follow, 360,
Mm-hmm.
four. And I'm just like, man, like these multimillionaires, they know this stuff. They know what calendar is being used. They understand what the luminaries are for. They base everything off of jubilees years,
Okay. Yeah.
and they base everything off of how the whole cycle works. Um, I don't know what a jubilee year is, but and a lot of people don't know when the jubilee actually starts or when it ends, but they know that it's every 7 years.
It's supposed
If
to
they
be.
go off of Yes, and if they go off of the Jewish calendar, which is the 13 month, I don't know if that's the right one. If they're going off of the Zadok calendar or the Enoch calendar, that makes a lot more sense to me how the jubilees work. And I believe that once we figure out that, we're going to actually know what year is the jubilee years, right? So you got the 7 year cycle, and then you also have then the 49 cycle, which is then the 50th year, right?
It's
So
super jubilee.
I don't know where we're at on that. I don't know what years are yet, but I do know that they all line up, right? So
Hmm.
especially when it comes to coming to all the crypto stuff. So
Crypto. Have you traded any of your XRP for Sologenic or Corium?
nope.
No.
I'm more of a holder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I like XRP, and there's lots of stuff to it. I'm not like amazing at understanding all crypto. My
Yeah.
brother and sister in law are way better at it, and they help me quite a bit. But I do XRP, I do XLM. I actually mined Ethereum and was trading it over into XLM.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would like to have a little bit of Bitcoin. I don't have it right now, but I would like to have a little bit of that. And yeah, so it was fun to learn about it and get it. I don't know if we're going to be able to use it or not. That's I believe in the end times, mark of the beast stuff, and if you can't buy or sell unless you
Yeah,
have
you
the
got to use a
mark,
mark. Yeah.
how
A lot of
crypto
people
is
are
going to
scared
play
about
into
that.
it.
The CBDCs, all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know if I know I see everything in COVID. I know I see like people installing stuff in their chips and everything. And a lot of people, and you've been saying it too, even at the beginning of COVID before I moved away, you were even talking about like this is like 10 times. And a lot more people are saying that nowadays because the world's gotten pretty crazy. I just feel like it's too good to be true. I feel like it's to scare people. I feel like it's to wake people up a bit. And I'm not saying it can't happen now. I just feel like, oh, like what if?
I don't know if we're right there right now. We're definitely, all this stuff is precursor. And when I studied, especially during COVID, you look at Revelation 6. It's interesting because like you look at the horses, the horseman. The first horse comes in white, and he's riding a white horse, and he's holding a bow and a crown. The word bow in Greek is toxon, which means toxic, which
Mm-hmm.
also means, and then you have the crown, which is corona, and it
Yeah.
comes comes to conquer and or conquering and to conquer. Another version is victory to victory. It's this aspect of going one spot at a time, right? And that's how I saw a lot of COVID. Now, does that actually line up or not in Revelation 6 or not? I'm not sure, but it was some convincing arguments to me that there is this aspect of starting. Is it the end days? No, and I'm not I'm a post
I
millennialism.
feel like
I'm
the
not
parallels were too
pre
easy to.
rapture or nothing like that.
Yeah, not to get into pre-rapture and all that stuff, but I feel like it was like everything was too good to be true when you look back at it. Like you're like, whoa. Like if you were sort of half
Yeah.
awake and aware of prophecies, you're like, this is nuts. And I almost wonder if it was
Yeah.
a little bit designed that way, to be honest, and not in a good and a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Like there's so much bad stuff that's happened the last few years on Earth, but the fruit of it is almost like people are moving closer to God. Like if 2020 didn't
Yeah.
happen and I didn't pause my life, I wouldn't have kept researching
Yeah.
things. I wouldn't have become.
No.
It's sort of weird saying that you're a flat earther, but it's not when you kind of get to the point where it's like, I don't even care that I tell people that
Yeah.
now. I'm like, I'm just like, I don't even care that I say it because it's like Corona now to me. It's like at the beginning of Corona, I was
Mm-hmm.
a little bit confused what's going on. But then when you saw through the lies fast enough, you're like, wow, this is bullshit. And it's kind of the same now with
Mm-hmm.
NASA lies and the globe Earth. It's just like, and I can't necessarily prove to you that it's flat, but we can observe like all the pictures I see, the proper pictures, not the fisheye lens,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
NASA manipulated stuff. And that's another thing when they flip the ball. If you go online and they see how they flip the ball, there's always like a demonic face in it. Have you seen that? So
No,
like
I
if you
actually
if
haven't,
okay,
but
so
wouldn't surprise me.
if you take a picture of like a NASA picture of the Earth, you cut it in
Mm-hmm.
half, and then like they flip it, and you can see the demonic faces in it. And it's
Oh,
like, oh,
interesting.
there's ball. Like B, and we're saying ball, we're saying
It,
Baal, like
yeah.
Baal and
Baal.
Moloch.
Baal. Yeah.
Yeah, like these are these
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
demonic forces the Canaanites and everyone worshipped and sacrificed babies to. And
Yeah.
then these are the people, like, this is why I bring up the Khazarian Mafia, because these are these like the descendants of the Canaanites that were the first people to maybe, and even when you talk about the Nephilim and you research the Nephilim, got demonized on Earth because they went into, well, like in Sardinia, they have these giant tombs where they built these temples
Mm-hmm.
on top of the giant bodies, and then as a rite of passage, they would go in there and invite the spirits into their bodies, and that was probably the
Yeah.
beginning of demonic, like people being demonic and being
Uh,
possessed. And then now these
yeah.
people are like pretending they're the central bankers. They like work for the Rothschild. And then there's these theories the Nephilim are still the fallen angels. The Nephilims are somehow have power and they're above the Rothschilds. And I don't know, man, it's crazy. And then all this stuff is happening in an enclosed flat Earth. And then, which makes it even better, this is the best part about flat Earth, is when you think of all the enemies we can see right now. You've never been if you're a Christian or believe in God. I think if you're like us and awake a bit, and there's a lot of people like us right now, it's like you've never been able to see your enemy so clear. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? You've never been able
Yeah.
to see your enemy so
Yep.
easily. It's like that guy's an enemy. That guy is a liar. And because of
Yeah.
what they're doing and what they're supporting right now, and even Netanyahu, what happened in Israel, it's like that guy's a snake. And for years, if you're a
Yeah.
Christian with like back in the day, like with Harper, if you were on the right wing side, you were like, yeah, Netanyahu and Harper, they're buddies. Like, yeah, we support it all. And now I'm like, later on, I'm like, no, this is garbage, man. Like, it's just so
Yeah.
much garbage. But you see your enemies if you don't think the Earth is flat, and you see these massive militaries that could be really scary for you. But if we're seeing your enemy more and more and more, and I've talked about crazy things are coming to Earth, a plane isn't that big of a deal to a
No.
being or an entity that is looking down on its
Yeah.
enclosed system. What the heck is a plane?
Yeah.
It's nothing. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I can blow the shit out of
It's
me,
interesting.
but it's like
Interesting how we call it. It's interesting how we call planes, and then we have the plane,
on a ball, but they
right?
fly around a ball. They don't fly on a flat plane. And there's all the papers. If you do some more research, I've been seeing
No,
on
but flat
NASA.
plane, and then we call
Yeah, we would call it a ball.
when we call it
A plane.
airplane.
Yeah, we fly over a plane,
Well, like
a flat plane.
yes, and they're called planes.
And there's all those papers. I've
Is
been seeing people like there's actual research out there. It says when you're flying, assume you're on assume you're not, but just assume it. Just assume all your flight trajectories and your path is on a flat Earth. But remember,
Yeah.
you're on a ball. Like,
Yeah.
come on. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
getting a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't laugh at anybody it's not, because I was there myself, right? Like
so was I,
it's
but now it's
I've
laughable.
learned to have a lot of patience. It is laughable.
It gets
100%
laughable.
is laughable.
And it's really
it's
funny.
almost laughing at yourself, because
yeah, you kind of laugh at yourself. You're like, I believe this too. And it's funny too. Like, a lot of people, like, I don't even bring it up. And my whole life, I've never brought it up. And I've had some people, it's like, they go out of their way to tell me, "Oh, are you one of those flat earthers?" And even when I wasn't a flat earther, I was like, "No, but why do you say that to me?" They defend the globe on their own. You don't even have to provoke them. Like, there are globe defenders. They walk around and they just defend the globe. And it's like, dude, I didn't even bring this up. Why are you like so defensive about it? Like, I don't know. I've seen this pattern in people before, and it's like, it's really weird.
It definitely causes some reaction. There's something about it that causes some sort of like anger or hostility.
Anger. Yeah, they get like,
Yeah.
It's like COVID. It's like when you didn't wear a mask.
Yep.
It's like, what is wrong with it? Like, they get so mad at you, and I'm like, well, the mask doesn't stop a virus. Like, why am I like, I don't want to breathe this. I don't want to breathe my freaking waste gas in. Like, this is retarded.
Yep.
And then it's like, now it's like, oh, it's kind of the same way. Like, how many flat earthers before me have been the same? Like you. Like, oh my gosh, guys, you're stupid. I'm not stupid. Oh man.
There's a lot of. So go ahead.
No. Keep going. I was going to say, because you got your own show, but go ahead. What you were going to say first?
Oh yeah, no. Just one of the things I'm really starting to learn, and I'm passionate about right now, is what I'm really studying a lot in is law. I'm studying a lot of common law. I'm studying, I got
maritime law. How we're slaves.
Yeah, because when the Bible says our words are life and death, that's literal. There was a book. My brother-in-law, who does the channel with me on my YouTube channel, he read this book. It's from the 1600s. It's about Indian slave owner that talks about how to make good slaves.
Whoa! Only white people were all slave owners.
Yeah. Well, it was a white guy from that went to India.
Oh,
right?
like
it was from.
went to India. I thought you said Indian. Like an Indian.
No, yeah, he went to India. He was a slave. He transferred slaves from England to India, or from India to England.
Okay, so he
stuff,
was
right. Yeah, he was. But yeah, they're not. There's a lot of different slave owners out there, but different of all colors. But anyways, in this book the whole book was how to make good slaves, and first thing to do to make good slaves is to change their language. To you instantly know if they were slave by the way they talked, because they did not know what words meant. They were taught a whole different way of speaking, right?
So they appeared kind of dumb to the other people.
Yeah.
Like, if you were speaking a native tongue, then your slaves have struggled, and you automatically kind of like, oh, you're dumb. I don't experience it here, but you kind of hear people say it sometimes, like, oh, foreigners are dumb. And I'm like,
let me ask you something right now. Allodium title.
Sorry, say that again.
What's allodium?
Allodium?
Yeah.
I have no idea. What do you mean?
Exactly.
Only the people. You said allodium title, so I'm assuming it's something to do with maritime law.
No, allodium is the land patent, right? So just by me even saying that to you, anybody who knows this stuff would instantly know you don't know this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. This is how our English, how changing a language can literally make you stupider, because you do not know what allodium is. Allodium is huge. Allodium is a land patent. Allodium in Latin means king of your land, ownership.
Oh, okay. Like, so the patents or the land ownership we get right now, we get like these paper deeds, but technically the state still owns it. We don't actually have true ownership of our land. Is that what you're talking about? I've heard this concept where you need to get a different type of ownership to have like real ownership over your own land. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, it's allodium titles. It's
I didn't know
land patents. Yeah, this is what this is something that's interesting because this is how sovereigns are. If you're a citizen, you're only a citizen. You can't be a sovereign citizen. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
If you're a citizen, you're under somebody. If you're sovereign, you're not.
I did a
You
show at the beginning of this year. Brandon something, he calls himself one stupid fuck, and he's an American, and he's basically freed himself, and he's not part of the
Yep.
U.S. corporation. He's like part of the republic in his state, and that concept
Yep.
was really interesting. I haven't had time to research it how it applies to Canada or other countries, but he has a whole system to help Americans get out of it.
Well, it was because it's all common law.
Yeah,
It's all common. The Commonwealth countries,
yeah,
even the states, is part of the Commonwealth. People don't
yeah.
realize that. You go back to your history, you look at 1666 and all this stuff. And
Yeah, when everyone became a
all these treaties.
corporation, we're all being
Yep.
run. Like that's probably like even like the Queen, the conspiracies about the Queen. Like they think it's just a title and a ceremonial position, but behind
No.
the scenes,
To me,
it might be a lot bigger.
Corporation is what the Bible calls a fault is God's, right? The word God is a title. The word God just means, and you look up the definition of Elohim, it means a king, a ruler, a judge, or it can mean the Almighty. It can mean a messenger, right? That's just a title. So when you have a corporation, you look at when Yehovah, God of the Bible of Abraham and Isaac, when you look at when he says in his first command, have no idols before me, no graven images. That's literally the definition of what a corporation is. Corporation is an entity that cannot think, cannot talk, cannot move, cannot do anything without
It tells
somebody
you to
doing
put
it
a
for you.
mask on.
Exactly. When you realize that these governments are just trustees of the land. That's why you get paid property tax, not land tax, right? Property is everything on the land. That's your house, your boat, your driveway, your lawnmowers. Like that's your property. You're getting taxed on your property, not the land. When you own the land, you do not have to pay any property tax because it's your land. Governments are just trustees of the land. They only hold it in trust until you claim it, until you take ownership of it.
So how do you do that?
Land goes all. Well, you go to a land patent office, land deeds or title offices. In BC, we have the BC land title office. You go there. You have to get your meets and bounds. There's a process. You have to do this right. You have to learn this.
But then you can stop paying property taxes.
Yes,
to the government.
And yes, they don't own you. They don't own you. They can't charge you for something you own.
So they give you a path out, but you have to find it. Almost.
No, it's not. They can't even give it. They don't have the authority to give it to you. They're just a trustee. They are an intermediary for you to do to. They're just the tool for you to get what you deserve. They don't own nothing. They can't do anything.
Okay, so it's almost like crypto and holding your own crypto on your own.
Very similar
in a way, but like a concept. So they're like. They're like the central exchanges holding it for you, keeping. I'll take care of it for you. That in that sense,
yeah.
Okay.
See, yeah, because we all sign contracts with them, right? So when there's a guy named Davis Strait. I'm not sure how much
I know who that is.
There's some really.
So he's got some really good stuff. And some stuff I know who you're talking about. I like his clips, and then some stuff I'm like, but he's got a lot of cool like concepts. That he teaches.
And he talks about he has this story of the story of the woman, right? And it talks about a pregnant woman who is going into labor. She goes to a hospital. There's only 3 spots in the Commonwealth where you can drop off a baby legally and not be charged for it: a hospital, a church, and I think it's fire stations or whatever like that.
And you can not be charged.
Drop off. Well, because
you can abandon your. You mean abandon your baby? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, abandon your baby. So the hospital, when you go to a hospital, and this is one of the places to do it, they have a plaque. Every one of these places have a plaque legally. They have to have somewhere in the building that has this thing. I forget the name of it, but you can leave your baby there. when we go to the hospital, we go to a birthing ward, right? And it's
Yeah,
all
like a
this is all
birthing canal and all
maritime.
that, maritime birthing
Yeah,
canals, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And you sign a birth certificate, meaning you're
yeah,
delivering the package and handing it over to them.
yeah, and you
We
sign
all
us over
sign
to
that.
the
These are all
corporation.
contracts.
Our
Yeah,
parents did
so
it
we
to
have our
us, and
corpse,
we've
and
done it
you
to
know
our
all this stuff.
kids.
Yeah,
Not, no, well, I'm not an
yeah,
expert on it, but I get the idea of it,
yeah,
and I get the idea
yeah.
that okay, like we we as parents signed over our kids to these corporations to become debt slaves, and we are now like cattle for them to basically earn taxes off, and they have estimates of how much we're worth and how much we're going to be able to
Yes,
earn
yeah.
for the
You
corporation.
you can
it's
act.
it's bullshit, man. And we're slaves. Like we
Hmm.
I'm not being human trafficked and getting raped every night, but I am we're all
Yes, I am.
slaves. Well, yeah, but not like physically. You know what I mean? Like I don't got to put ice on my butthole at the end of the day. Like, but we are all being raped by the government in one way or another. We're probably the
Yes.
luckiest slaves. Like we can go do whatever we want, but we're still owned by the corporation. But another idea of that was this. Now, this is totally off flat Earth, but everything ties together when you start talking about
It
everything.
does tie together, though. It
And
does tie together.
and the whole idea, like, okay, like if I have debt, I'm owned. My debt is owned to the corporation, but the corporation owns me. They're liable for
Hmm.
me. So you can start to turn
Hmm.
that around on them. And that's one thing I
Hmm.
really want to learn about is like, okay, why don't I rack up my debt a bit and turn that around and tell you guys, since you own me, I'm your little good little slave, take care of my debt because you guys are liable for me. And
Well, actually,
I'm
you can use your trust fund. Now that's a whole nother thing, and I don't want to go there because there's a
like
lot
rich
more to
people
talk
use
about.
and then they use different topic things to protect their wealth. Is that what you're talking about too?
Well, because your parents signed you into the birth certificate and all that, they have a trust
Mm-hmm.
fund made for you, and every time you do something significant in your life, that you get they you
The
make more
government
and more
has a
and more
trust fund
money.
on me, or the corporation.
Yes, they do, and you can use that trust fund to pay off all your the rest of your life. You want like how it works. I'm not super expert. I wouldn't say anyway. I just say go research it. It's going to take
Okay,
a
but
lot
this
of
is the next.
research
This
for
is
you
the
to go to.
next. I think this is the next steps where I want to go to. There's been things happening in my life behind the scenes, but I've been like, okay, like part of me is like, yeah, I want to like free myself as much as possible. The more I learn about it, and
I think
there's only so
the
much you can
best thing,
do to get out of a 9 to 5 job. But like,
yeah,
imagine like what we're talking about right now. Imagine that type of
yeah,
civil disobedience on a mass scale. People using
oh
their
yeah,
trust,
that's why they
whatever
don't
you're
want you to
like.
know about this stuff.
Yeah, but we could. Oh man, this ties into cryptocurrency too, because then
Yes, it does.
you can take your trust fund and make your own liquidity pool and live off that.
Yeah,
You could
I
tap
would
into
never
your
kick.
own. You can tap into your own liquidity. You can tap into your own trust fund. You could tokenize it, and you could have all that, whatever you call your personal, however they're doing it. I'm not understanding it, but you could make your own liquidity pools.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Um, for me, my biggest thing is looking into or is a land title thing because everything's made from the land. In fact, you know what the word law is acronym word.
Okay, for what?
It comes from Genesis. It comes from Genesis 28. It says that gave dominion to man over
I
the
like
land,
Dominion.
sea,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
water.
Yes. And that's what I
That's where
knew
we get
this
our word law
before I
from.
got deeper. Dominion is being stolen by us by these corporations, and they use the Dominion voting systems in Canada and America to select their leaders who rules over you.
Yeah, also says in the Bible, "Do not pass your seed through through the fire of Moloch." That's not a child sacrifice. There are child sacrifices, but that's
What
not a
would
child
that be
sacrifice.
then?
As literally, when you pass your seed through the Moloch, that is signing a contract with them.
But we all did it.
You give your children, yes, exactly, and you give your
We've all
son
been brainwashed. We've all
and
been brainwashed to this. But I don't. Okay, this is the
yeah.
crazy
Now
part.
there
But
are
then
the
you'd be like,
word.
"Oh, I did something wrong." But we've all been deceived to such a level. I don't think God is so evil and so angry at you that you've been deceived. I think we have a God that was the like, look what's happening to you guys. I want to fix this. I think that's
Hmm.
what
For
I
sure.
think. I think more of that is happening on Earth right now than the end times, and we're about to head into a tribulation or a rapture. I see us living in a freeing moment, and I see us getting very close to a moment on Earth. And I think we're coming very close to a scare event because, like, everyone is reliant on cash. Everyone is reliant on the corporation rules. Everyone is reliant on the corporations, Costco's, ever the hospitals. It's all tied together,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
everyone relies on it. Everyone is trusting it. Everyone is dependent on it. And part of my journey the last few years, unplugging from some of this stuff, is a little bit scary, and it's been a little bit
Hmm.
testing. And I sort of wonder if other people or more people are sort of going to have to follow my path in the near future because the world's about to change. And when you think about me, or our age, we're 20 years before 9/11. Not 20 years before 9/11. Like, yeah, roughly 20 years. A
Yeah.
lot of people, roughly 20 years before
Yeah.
9/11. Um, Everything from 9/11 has changed like crazy.
Hmm.
Like, what was I just
Hmm.
saying before that? Like, it's just.
Yeah, there's definitely we're in this generation of definitely seeing things going at warp speed, right? And that's another
Yeah.
operation aspect, warp speed and trying to get things moving quicker and quicker. And it does talk in the Bible that the time will be
Excel or
faster,
speed
right?
up.
It's going to excel. Yeah,
Things will
it's going to
speed
speed
up.
up, and
But like, that's where I'm like,
yeah.
okay, but we can see that we're slaves if you're starting to wake up more and more. That's where I kind of think, okay, I don't know if we're in the end times yet because there's things that have to happen. And part of it
Mm.
is part of
We
part
we
of the
should
end
do a whole
times.
we should do a whole
Well, we can do it. We can
we
do
should
another
do a
show
whole
of it.
episode. Yeah,
But part of the end
because I can
times
get
is
into that a lot.
like is miracles. Okay, like driving the elites to jealousy, and I think that's coming up. I don't know why, but I don't think it's the end of the times yet. I can see the parallels, but maybe that was by design to wake you up and get ready for what's
Mm.
next. And I do kind of wonder, especially with crypto coming, AI coming. That's where I was trying to go at 2 seconds ago.
Mm.
Is
Yeah,
is
yeah,
is
yeah. That,
freeing your
that's a lot of
is
interesting stuff too.
but no, that's what I was saying. Like 20 years before 9/11, like I've spent 20 years going to school, then 20 years 9 to 5. That's all we've known for a lot of us is just work, 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 school, school,
Mm.
school, and unplugging yourself from that. And sort of like,
Yeah.
I've had no choice but to wait. Like at the beginning of 2020 was 1 year of waiting. I knew layoffs were coming for the company. Then you get laid off, and I take a year off. I took a little downtime for me. And then I tried to go back to work, and then we decided to relocate. And I'm coming up on like 4 years of limbo. And I'm telling you, it's not easy. But I also wonder, with all this stuff coming our way, and if we get freed from corporations, this is not easy to unplug from. It's almost like the Shawshank Redemption guy that walked out of jail and then hung himself because he was so used to jail. He was so used to being
Mm.
a prisoner, he couldn't
Yeah.
handle freedom. And sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like, those last few years, have I struggled? Like, yes, it's like I want to go make money, I want to go do this stuff. My hands have been tied, but like, have I had to walk through part of a freeing experience? And is part of that freeing experience really truly unplugging from this need and desire to just, I don't know, work for the corporation, pay your taxes? And we all are there. We're all there. It's not so easy to escape it. It's not like we all have to feed ourselves. We all need a
No.
roof over ourselves. But what they're doing is they're making it harder and harder and harder. So you own nothing and be happy. But you're not. Our quality of life
Yeah.
downsizing or reducing your quality of life doesn't usually make you happy. Like, one man's stress is another man's dream. And if you're in Canada or in some of these European countries watching people shit on your beach or fuck goats, those people probably wish they had some of your stresses because they're clearly a little bit behind.
Mm.
But I don't know.
Mm.
It's just, I think if this does happen, a freeing experience from maritime law, like modern day slavery, it will be
Yeah.
kind of weird for a lot of people. I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting. You got the whole Moses Exodus story, right? And it talks
Yeah,
about
exactly. It's a
in
parallel
English,
of that sometimes.
English word for what is it? The taskmasters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Hebrew, that's actually tax masters.
Yeah.
Tax. Why would the Israelites say, "Let's go back"?
They wanted to
We
go
don't want to
back
be
to
out
their
here. We don't
tax
want our freedom.
masters.
We want to go back to because we had all the things in Egypt. It's because it wasn't like it was like what we think of beating and slavery today. They had a system set up. They still got paid. They still ate food. They still, we get taxed almost 60% here in Canada.
Yes, nuts, man.
60% of our income.
So I don't pay it anymore.
There, yeah, like we have a nice lifestyle. We got house over our head. We do
Yeah,
all. We have all
but
this
it's getting
stuff.
harder and harder.
And yeah, I know. But what
What
if
do they
all
have,
of a sudden
90-year
I
mortgages in
got the
Canada now?
option? Yeah, if I go out to the wilderness, all of a sudden I want to go out, and they say, well, you can go out, 200 kilometers out in the forest. I have to start all over again. I have to make everything myself. I got to almost like homesteading, like doing all that.
Mm-hmm.
A year from now, when it's winter and cold out, we'll look back and be like, man, that wasn't so bad, was it? Where we lived, we had a roof over our head, we had some food. Yeah, we had to pay 60% taxes, but it seems a little harder out here because we have to do it ourselves.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's true.
exactly how it was for the children in Israel. They went out into the wilderness. They have to start all over again, and they're looking back and be like, "Wow, man, this is way harder than where we were in Egypt." Yeah, I know
The
we got beaten
transition
a little bit. We
period
had
is hard. The transition period is
yes,
hard, and
yes,
I think I feel like I've lived that a little bit the last few years, and it's
and
like,
I
yeah, keep going.
I think that's what our brains are like too. It's the
Our brains have been broken. Yeah,
it's the transition period that we have the most struggle with. Like you just said, I don't care anymore if anybody believes in flat Earth. But what was the hardest point? The transition period, right? That was the hardest point to get through because you're struggling with so much stuff. Is it really real? How am I going to defend it? If our people think I'm going crazy, and then once you get to that point, you're like, I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter.
it doesn't.
I'm good.
No, but I'm more focused on
So
like you said, like creating a more independent life. And part of
yes,
coming here is there's more people like this. They want to be more independent of the government.
yeah,
Whereas I hate to say it, but Canada is going the other way. Everyone wants to become more dependent on the government. And I literally met someone
100%.
on the beach here, and this was this summer, and they were like, "Oh, we're moving to Canada for a better life." And I was like, "Ew." And I'm like, I just left Canada for a better life, and it was really awkward. And, and I was like, good luck, right? Like, but then I was like, well, if you want more, I don't know. I guess if you want more government handouts, then that's the place to be. But I don't even think the handouts are that good in Canada, to be honest, because the inflation is so bad there. It's all I don't know. But
I need
hey, let's
one more break here.
I'm gonna actually wrap it up because it's getting pretty late for me. So
Okay,
go
just let me.
go
I have to go
go
really bad. I've
quickly.
been
Yeah,
holding it.
go fast. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm
Sorry.
just gonna. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's really easy to. It's really easy to. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna wrap it up and just say, hey, share where can you share your stuff or watch your show. And then if you want to chat a little bit after, we'll do that. I'm looking at the timer. It's getting
Okay.
late. So, okay.
Yeah. What time is it there?
It's just after midnight now, so
I feel like we have like a 3-second delay,
maybe, might be.
at least on my end.
Okay, well, it'll all come together when I do it. So okay, I'm just
Yeah,
gonna finish off.
it'll be good. We've been flowing pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, man. I'm gonna wrap this show up though. I think we're gonna talk again though. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I think there's way more rabbit holes we can maybe talk and
Oh yeah.
put some more puzzle pieces together. But you have your own show. What's it called? Where can my listeners find you if they want to tune in?
So we're on YouTube. My brother-in-law Stephen and I we focus on biblical apologetics. We dive into a lot more of scripture. We look at we love taking looking at definition of words in the Greek and the Hebrew, and we then look at the context of what those words actually mean. We found out that translations are just that, translations. They for every Bible out there, only the King James and Geneva Bible don't have copyrights. The rest do, which means you have to change it 20% to get rights to it. So you need to learn. Not any version is perfect, except for diving into the Greek and the Hebrew, and even then, there's not one, there's no original copy anywhere. So you have to do your research. You have to work, and that's what part of our channel is really diving in into Scripture, and sometimes we talk about a little bit of other stuff. And I would love to actually have some segments on other things as well. And I would love to have you come on, John, one of these days, and
anytime.
Has some good stuff on there. But anyways, our channel is Yaw's Prophetic Poetry.
Poetry.
That's on
Not
poetry. Yes.
We had a mix up. You said poultry, and I was like, Yas
Yeah.
prophetic poultry. What's he talking
What?
about chicken for? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's our Canadianness and us chickens, and it's take off, you hoser, that kind of stuff.
Okay, sweet. No, that's
Boots
good.
But yeah, we do a lot there, and we enjoy getting into studying. If you like to get into definitions of words and the Bible,
and
that's
I've heard
you
from
I'm
learning Greek really slowly, but I've heard from a lot of people that have learned Greek or Hebrew. They even say, like, when you speak English, you're like, oh, it makes the English language, the words we're using every day, if you make more sense even.
Yes,
like the origin,
and there's lots of words. Yeah, like even the word love, like our word love in English, even the Greeks have such a better, like they have 4 different types. You got the word love for like an intimate relationship with your wife. You got the brotherly love. You got we say, oh, I love having hot dogs, right? Like, well,
no Barack Obama.
You have more words to use. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's our channel, and that's what we focus on. And but I do love having I'm a big conspiracy, love getting into all that stuff, all different directions. So
I wasn't until 2020 and then this whole show, but I think to understand prophecy, the supernatural, I don't think you have a choice. You kind of got to dive into the conspiracy world at some point. On that note,
yeah,
I talked about Q a lot. What were your thoughts? We'll finish off the show on that. Like, Q was a huge thing for years. I think a lot of people are split. Like, psyop, good thing, bad thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Just overview.
I would say that I have many horses in the race.
Mm-hmm.
Q wasn't on my top one. It's I'm not sure exactly where I stand with it. And I know we used to talk about it quite a bit years ago. The aspect of Trump, I'm not sure where I stand with that stuff yet. I see good things, and I see also bad things.
They're all division. Yeah, they all are. Like, there's lots of different ways to look at it, and like people interpret it so many different ways. So I'll change my mind if it doesn't happen, but I sort of think Trump has a way in ending modern day slavery, whether it's just human trafficking. I mean, he had those executive orders just with back in his day, like stealing the wealth and the property of human traffickers. And then all of a sudden the world has gone nuts since then. And all these stories about him taking gold from the Vatican. So I'll find it very interesting what's going to happen in the next little while. I think something big in a positive way would have to happen in the next year or two. That would be sort of undeniable for people to be like, okay, something crazy is happening. But I've never talked about dates, and I don't care about dates, but I've told you before I even did this show that I've heard from God. And the more the world moves forward, the more some of the stuff he told me made sense. A lot of people don't believe me. I think you were one of the people that actually believed me before I did any of it on this show, but there were a few people that listened to me, and I think you were one of them. But
and you were definitely good at interpreting dreams. I remember telling you a couple, and actually I don't even think I've had any serious ones since last time it was a couple years ago.
No,
since I saw you. So
I've been having different experiences, more I don't know how you explain it. Would it be almost like a daytime dream, not like a vision, like something I'm seeing in front of me,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
when I'm
Yeah.
in times where I really need something, and like this is weird too because conspiracy theories they always tie in with the pineal gland, but then the Bible talks about the mind of
Mm.
Christ and visions, and it's like sometimes I'll see something in the daytime, like I would almost. It's like almost I'm awake, but it's almost like I would dream it in my imagination. If I was at sleep, that's just how I would see it in my dreams, and I'll see it in the daytime, and then
Yeah.
and then it'll come true. And I just walked it
Yeah.
this weekend. I went through something extremely stressful, and
Mm.
I saw it coming together before it happened. And even though I was stressed, I was like, that's what I was leaning on. So like supernatural stuff. Like I think this is going to pick up on the world too for everyone. But yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
I'm saying goodbye to you, and we can keep going. This is why we'll have you again.
Well,
But
that'd be fun. I really enjoy it. I appreciate it. It was
yeah,
so much fun, and hopefully your listeners get a little bit out of it. And I
no,
know,
yeah, we'll do it again for sure. Okay, man.
yeah.
I'm gonna say
All
bye.
right. Well, God bless, and goodbye.
Thanks, man. You too. Hey, sorry.
It,
Yeah, I did it again, but
it
that's
says
okay.
recording still
On
on my
yours,
end. Yeah,
did you push leave?
I did push leave, and that's how I exited right out.
Um, yeah, it's probably because we're back in here. I'll just push stop. Hold on. I'm just gonna open another